Hi, I'm Foronda.
Hi, I'm Angel. I'm an artist.
I am currently teaching English to Japanese students.
Hi, I'm Alma.
My name is Nicolo. I'm a photographer.
I'm a journalist
And I'm a vegetarian.
and occasional poet.
Hi, I'm Kim.
I am godless, atheist, free thinker.
My name is Vince.
I'm involved in lay pastoral ministry.
I'm a poet and a critic.
I do believe that an excess in everything is not a good thing.
Because gravity.
I like reading books and I love philosophy.
And I'm a unicorn.
As long as I'm cute, I'm okay with that.
Other than that,
Very interested in hearing people's story.
I have no other labels or identifiers for myself, so I don't know.
I believe in truth, at least I will when I find it.
Maybe I'm just me.
Welcome to another episode of Principles of Principle. Well, today we're going to talk about love. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. But first off, actually, yeah. Well, why not talk about it now? Masturbation. Oh, yeah.
So talking about
Self-love.
Self-love. Okay, I think we're
wait.
gonna introduce ourselves.
No, before we introduce ourselves,
Yeah?
you have a request, right?
What request?
Before we launch this
Yeah,
ship?
we must put our hands on the table to have this discussion to prove that we are sincere in our effort to have a serious discussion. Okay, this is not merely for titillation.
God.
So now we can introduce ourselves at the seance. I'm Alma.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Angel?
Me.
Wanggo.
Vince.
And so now we're going to talk about some very handsy matters.
Okay, so here we go.
A handful of
First-
matters.
That big, huh?
Well, wait. Hold on, you guys. Okay. You all do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I should
Next
think.
question.
All right, good. All right.
Okay, I mean this is
That's
already
being-
something to
that's
talk
being
about.
Okay.
I mean,
Let's
everyone's you know,
Yes.
everyone's on walking
Maybe
on
they said
eggshells.
why is that?
Okay,
Why
anyway.
is that?
Hey,
Okay, so the first question is, how do you do it?
honestly, do you want the really detailed graphic?
Yes, we want all the
no
details.
bars.
Yes, we do. We want this now.
Does
Alright,
Does
let me
Kim Jong-un do it?
He must have to. You saw his face? Okay.
His face. What? So his face kind of looks like he
it's-
doesn't do it.
No, I'm pretty sure he does it because I don't think anybody else will do it with him.
But wait, why are we talking about Kim Jong Un? We're trying to
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about
Why
you
are we
guys.
talking about that? It's such a turn off.
Yes.
Well, for one, sex is something, as they said in the psychology, it's a need. You know? It has to be satisfied. But there are times when you don't have a partner, so you do it.
Yeah,
You have to do it so that you be able to satisfy yourself.
Is that necessarily so? Like, do we need to do it? Do we need to have sex? Do
Yeah,
we
because-
need to masturbate? I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I like that. I'm gonna take note of that.
Yeah, because it can. It's not only a need. No, it's something you get by. I mean, parang it's part of you. It's a part of a person.
No, I think it's part of our makeup and our chemistry, and it's. But I just don't think that we need to do it. You know what I mean?
I stand corrected.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes,
like,
I do.
feel like we won't die.
It's
if
not
we
like
never
you
have
need to
sex,
eat.
or
Yeah.
we need to eat. We need to breathe. I feel like, I mean, sex is beautiful, but I just feel like we don't need to have sex, and we don't need to.
Wait, we
masturbate.
don't need to have sex?
It's wonderful. I just said that. I mean, it would be great, and it's wonderful, but do we really need to do it?
Well, I think Angel just latched on to the reason for so much unsatisfying sex between people.
Probably.
Which brings us back to masturbation, because when you have unsatisfying sex, then you go, I think I can do this one better, and I have two hands, right? And maybe a few toys. So, do you do it? And why do you do it? See, I think the why is a little more important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's start with Vince. Vince.
Do we need a reason?
Okay, yeah, that's one.
Because I want to.
You know what? Whether we need a reason or not, a lot of the time the human being will supply one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because it begs the need to rationalize more than the need to have a reason.
How about not?
I think that's an aftermath. No? Maybe after do it, maybe why did I do it? I just feel doing it. I just feel like doing it. Huh?
I mean, the truth of the matter is we are sexual beings. I mean, we are. I mean, there is a physical body. We have biology working for us.
Yeah, we have chemistry.
You know,
But
it happens. And so what happens is I started when I was realizing we're going to talk about this. I had to go and read up on it because it's like. There has to be more scientific thing, and apparently there is something called built-up sexual tension.
Yes.
So this
Especially a
has,
teenager.
right? And I guess if you want to look at it on the lower baser animal sort of thing, there are cats when they have periods when they are in season for mating.
Yeah.
I suppose as human beings, we might possibly go through these sorts of situations, but since we are thinking rational beings, we say stuff like we don't need to if we don't want to. And that's perfectly correct because we don't have to go back completely into our primal thing. But biologically, we do have this sexual built-up tension, and it's actually, according to a lot of websites that I went through, Men's Health, WebMD, Planned Parenting, masturbation is actually supposed to be good because it relieves the sexual tension.
Yes.
Because when it's pent up sexual tension, you end up becoming repressed and you start lashing out,
Or you become aggressive.
or you become aggressive. So it actually there's a medical fact that it takes it out. And apparently it's good for your circulation, your immune system because that
Yes.
that what do you call that? That dopamine.
Yes.
That's for men especially.
Prostate cancer.
It stops them from having prostate cancer. You have to
Yes,
kind
yes.
of like
Release, yeah.
clean out the
There is
fuel
only-
tank and let so the new
It's
ones
like what
can
you call,
come in.
it's like a tune up or a
Tune
change
up,
oil.
yeah.
And you
don't know
have
if
to
it's the
replenish
same-
your swimmers.
Yes,
Yes.
I don't know if that's the same for the
Wait.
ladies. It's not. It wasn't the
Yeah.
articles that I read, but
You like, maybe you like to hear from the women.
Of course, you're going to represent the male ones. Okay, and another representation.
Yeah,
I
Representative
forgot the name.
This is such
I had
a
a
embarrassing
classmate
topic for
who told me that she dreamt of me and her having sex.
Ooh.
No, wait, because
Never
with a
had
guy,
that.
with a guy, right? When you
No,
wake
with
up,
me.
you would be, you know, all of, you know,
yeah, we have
everything.
orgasms.
Yeah,
so yeah, there would be
exactly.
ejaculation.
Exactly,
You
but
may be-
with a woman,
What is it? Is it the same thing?
yeah, is it a, yeah?
Are you asking? You've never had one?
I don't think so.
You know what?
You've never
you
had.
never
It's
You've
maybe
never
shocking,
had a
no?
dream where like you woke up and you're like you thought it was real.
No.
You've never had that.
Yeah, yeah.
No, never had.
Mm-hmm.
Although I dreamt of me having sex with a woman, but when I woke, I was like, man. But yeah.
Kasi ako, I tell you my experience, no? This is a little bit, I don't know if it's cut, but I had it when I was age 8 years old,
So not anymore.
grade 2. I was grade 2. I thought, you know what, on the first time it happened to me, I was so ashamed to tell my mother because something came up to my underwear, but it's not urine, it's something, you know that feeling,
Yeah.
and yet it feels so good, and yet I'm so afraid to say because I might be accused of bedwetting at age 8.
Were you afraid because you're afraid what it might be, or afraid what they'd say, or afraid?
I mean, what they say because I don't have the knowledge about this. No?
Okay. Okay.
All I know is bedwetting, right? But
Yeah,
not
that
what
has
wet
a-
dreams, no? Because I was 8 years old
Yeah.
then, no? By then, around that time, this was a taboo topic to
Yeah.
discuss.
I think it's still taboo. Like, why is it okay for guys to joke around about like jacking off, but then for women,
Yeah.
it's like it's such an embarrassing.
Yes.
Well, it's not very.
It's-
like,
No, I can.
You know what I'm saying?
It's quite, it's,
Yeah.
it's,
I think
it's
it's
society
cultural
who-
in that sense
yeah, it's
because
cultural. It's
you have the Madonna or whore.
Yeah. There's
And
nothing
you
in
have-
between.
you
There's
have
nothing
that-
in between.
A really ladylike lady can't be touchable, touched, or mussed up or messed up. And honestly, sex is not polite. It's not. It's not neat. It's messy. So to think that a lady would enjoy something that mussed up and messy would mean, oh, she's no lady. She's actually a slut.
Yeah.
Now, I don't
But-
believe in slut shaming because, as far as I'm concerned, I have as much right to pleasure as the next person, be that person
Correct.
male or female.
The term should be reclaimed then.
What? What term?
That must be redefined.
The word
Redefine, yeah.
the word slut
I think that's
itself.
right. That's not. I think that's part of it. You have to redefine it.
Yeah.
Because it speaks about yourself. It's your experience. You need to dig on it, search on it and try to identify so
Yeah.
that this is something about you.
And you know what? I mean, if you want to think about it, it's not so much as reclaiming and redefining the word slut. It's really redefining what we think about sex.
Exactly.
I mean, if we didn't think of sex as such a taboo thing, like it's immoral, like, you know, you're only supposed to do it in this particular conditions, then we wouldn't be afraid to ask what happens when men have their first, what do you call this?
Ejaculation, emission.
Or first hard-on. And then
Yeah.
for women, they
Yes.
wouldn't be so scared when they have their first menstruation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the pressure of all of that is not gonna come into. I feel it's really funny when grown-ups are scared to talk about
Grown-ups,
it.
I
You
like
know,
that.
Yeah,
adults.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and then we all know. And then everyone always says, "Well, everybody does it."
Yeah.
So why are we so
Talking-
afraid to talk
talking
about it?
And from a newsroom point of view, when people tell us, you know, someone comes to me and says, I have a really juicy story, you know, Congressman A has his girl shacked up over in this apartment, and I'm like, and that's news because is he spending government funds on this person? No, but you know, they're going at it like rabbits, and I'm supposed to care why?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't believe someone's sex life is news.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, people having sex is not news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it begs the question of the woman having to be a virgin and all that.
Yeah.
And would you believe, it's already in the Philippines where they also sell sex toys.
Yeah.
You can have a sex
Yeah.
mannequin for men and women.
I don't
So
see anything wrong
suppose-
with that.
I think the Philippines is beginning to open up no, in terms of
So-
this.
But I wanna clarify that thing about what you said about the sex is not news. I totally agree. People's private lives, but we have to start talking about sex more openly because
Yes.
there's so much stuff that's going wrong
Because
about
of
people's sex
misconception
lives.
and myth.
Right. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, there are. I think we talked about this in a previous episode. Unwanted pregnancies. People getting STDs and all of these things, and it's because we don't have this healthy way of looking at it. You know, I mean, I myself I have HIV. So actually, at this point, masturbation is really the safest way for me to relieve myself of that sexual tension. I mean, it's just a scary proposition.
Oh, totally.
You know, of having to put someone else into that whole situation.
And it's not even.
I found it now because in the States they have also what you call the HIV club.
What do you mean?
Anybody could sign up there for HIV, and more or less, as by that term, you can date somebody from the list. No?
Right.
So more or less, that's I think a safe way to do it, no? Because you got the person who has the same
Yeah.
situation. No?
Although I will make one cautionary note. Before you masturbate, make sure your hands are clean, especially if you're a girl.
That's
Yeah.
Because
Yes,
from
yes.
the Department of Health, a lot
That's the
of women
hygiene type.
report having
Maybe
STIs or
explain.
sexually transmitted infections.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they played with themselves without washing their hands after touching other
Yeah.
things.
We wash our hands before we eat.
Precisely.
That's our other mouth.
Of course. I mean, guys don't have that much of a problem unless
You don't?
into other arcana, like
No, we wash
inserting
our-
things.
we wash
like
also.
that.
No, you don't.
I
You don't
guess,
wash your
yeah.
hands when you go pee in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You're supposed to wash
That's
yourself
correct.
after you pee in the bathroom.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do that.
Right? So if some people don't think that.
Yeah.
No, but I mean that's exactly it. I mean we need to have better,
We need to
openness
have more openness
to talk
about
these
Actually,
things.
we need to have social acceptance about it, and it would
Yeah,
be really great if
acceptance.
the religious people are actually a lot at fault here when you talk about sex and they go, it's a sin, you're not supposed to talk about that. Oh my God, you're so filthy.
We
You
are
know?
sinful right now, yes, of talking
But that
about
takes
it.
away
yes.
one element of sexual fantasy that drives masturbation, which is guilt.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Alright.
I understand.
One of the drivers of arousal is actually guilt.
Mhm.
You know, all those taboo fantasies that people like so much, but will never admit to.
Yes.
I mean, I think we all have
Sad to
our
say,
own
yes.
kinks that do drive our fantasies.
Yeah.
And when I tap into that, I write erotic literature. And when people ask me, the most often asked question is, do you do what your characters do in your fiction? Now, I write about group sex. So, I'm like, I don't think that's safe in a country like the Philippines where so many people are repressed and they will treat you with disrespect if you
Yes.
engage in sexual activity that they think is sluttish or immoral.
Yeah.
And it's very hypocritical, but they do that. It's very
Yes.
human.
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing with masturbation. Why people won't talk about it is they will be considered nymphomaniacs or sex maniacs or
Right.
fiends.
Oh, boy.
People will look at you and think, is this person going to pounce on me? Alright?
Should we
Because
think-
this person admits to masturbating. When honestly, yeah, I'm not gonna pounce on you because I did for myself, honey.
Yeah.
Then there is also owning your pleasure. How will you know how to please another person?
Yeah.
Yes,
How
correct.
to receive pleasure, because some people can't have pleasure because their brains can't wrap around the concept of it pleases me and it's good. Alright?
Yeah.
There's that twin of guilt and pleasure again. So when you can't own up to that, when you can't own your own pleasure, you can't really give it, and then you become an inconsiderate lover. And that can shoot relationships that are perfectly good in other areas down the drain. So yes, why not masturbate?
You know what? You mentioned something now, because I've read a number of account of women who did not know about climax. They just men just jump onto them and
And they think that's the extent of it.
they don't know what climax is all about, no?
Yeah.
Because they're not being satisfied. No, I read about these articles, huh?
Because they're not satisfied.
You read
That's
about
true.
it.
So that's
You
why
read about it.
it's good that because the more they are informed, the more they're demanding reality. Because
Miriam
it's
Santiago said that very well, right? Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago. I'm a woman and I demand sexual satisfaction for my
Yes,
man.
of course.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But that's part of the give and take. It's the same thing as, expecting the person you're in a relationship with to pull his or her weight in the relationship. But also, what about those times when, yeah, honey's on a business trip and I kind of need a little loving tonight. So if you go to the spa and pamper yourself and you take pains to take care of yourself, I don't see why you won't masturbate, because that is also taking care of yourself.
yes, true,
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So should we thank 50 Shades of Grey now?
No.
No,
No, still
oh my
no.
God, no, please.
No.
No.
Thank you guys. Thank you. All right.
No,
No.
there's a difference between masturbation and hurting somebody else. I mean,
Although
no,
that
I mean, no
can play-
judgment. There
Yeah,
are
yeah,
people
yeah.
who are into this whole bondage.
Yes, yes.
And fine, choices are choices. But when you use them, when you mention 50 Shades of Grey, I didn't read the book, but I saw the movie.
You did?
I have to. I review movies.
Oh.
So
okay.
so I had to, and there was a push and pull. She said no, but he continued pushing for her to continue and try out his sort of kink.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and that's the dangerous part of that thing. I'm not going to be judgmental and say bondage is bad,
Oh, yeah.
sadomasochism is bad. There are people who really get off on it. Go ahead.
Okay. The reason why I have to give credit to that is because since you guys mentioned that no one wants to talk about it, I mean here in our country, right?
Yeah.
And then the only time that the sex is going to come in a really wide range of people now is because everyone in your newsfeed, it's all about 50 Shades of Grey,
But the
right? Now
context
they're
is wrong.
talking about that's
Yeah.
so true.
But the context is wrong. I
Yes.
mean, they're talking about it in such a way that it's the extreme case.
yeah.
And they're romanticizing
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
situation.
Mm.
Like there's this really fantastic meme that's talking about if Christian Grey did not live, wasn't a billionaire, lived in a trailer,
he'd be
it
just
would
a
be an
rapist,
episode.
yeah.
It would be an episode of CSI.
Yeah,
should
he'd
read
just be
this
a
out.
I
rapist.
saw that.
You know.
I saw
So,
that.
Actually, 120 Days of Sodom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what
I've read much more out there than that.
So we can romanticize painful, almost rapish kind of sex, but why is it so difficult to romanticize our own?
Yes.
Yes, for our
Yeah.
own
Yeah.
selves.
Yeah.
It's this
Yeah.
weird thing that we've got that that sex is not supposed to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
I don't want to blame it on the Catholic.
But no, no, no.
It's not that
That's
we have that.
that's also
we
that's
are-
Catholic.
we
But
can
there's
ca-
also
can
some
we blame them
the
on
Puritans
that?
and the Americans. No?
Okay.
They have
It's
this. Sex is very dirty. They only do it to
To have
procreate.
children.
But they have they were feeding so much guilt that the release is also very guilt feeling.
Yes.
Right.
So we have to cut that down because it's not natural. It's
Right.
not natural.
No, and there is nothing wrong with taking your pleasure because you're not hurting anyone. Definitely
Yes.
not.
True. That
And
makes sense.
and if your taking your pleasure involves applying nipple clamps to yourself, I have absolutely no problem
No
with that
judgment.
either.
But you know,
Right?
there's two sides though. 'cause,
It
like,
happens. So
there's-
who are we to judge?
Nipple clamps just happens.
There's two
Alright.
sides though. There's the acceptance of masturbating, and then there's also like people who
Overdo it.
overdo it, and then there's also the people who don't care for it, not because
Yeah.
they're embarrassed or guilty. Like, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't care for it.
Right.
It was
There
just
are
not,
people who are
Why
just
are you
not
embarrassed?
Yeah.
If you
Well,
didn't
because-
care for it, that's
Oh,
that's
because
fine.
then do people make you
Yeah.
feel bad that
Yeah.
there's something
Well,
wrong
if
with
you're
it?
at home with it, why not?
No, there's a story. So it was just not my thing, and so
Right.
my husband, my ex, he would say, "Don't tell me you never." I'm like, "No, it was just not my thing," because all his ex-girlfriends did. So now I started thinking, am I weird? Am I weird
No.
that
That's
I'm
you.
this
That's
grown
you.
woman?
Yeah,
That's
there
you.
are
Just
some
was
people.
never.
That's you.
There's
You know
some
what I'm
peop-
saying?
Completely.
So there's a lot of like.
That's you.
I think like you were saying, just acceptance all around.
Yes.
You know. But is there like a such thing as too much?
Well, you have to
You
be
can actually
well,
dehydrate yourself.
Yes,
Doing too much. Yes.
Can it fall off?
There's a danger. If you're
I have
addicted,
never seen a
Can
case
you
of
grow
falling
hairy
off yet.
palms?
Will you
If
go
you're addicted,
blind?
Will you go blind?
yeah, it's dangerous to be addictive about it. You have to be
I
discreet
think
about
any
this.
addiction is dangerous.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
the thing
It's,
is, on all the sites that I saw, they said the only time it becomes dangerous is when you are no longer functioning in
Functioning.
society or as a, as
Or
a
if you-
human
Normal-
being,
yeah, if it
because
turns
it's
into
getting in the way.
paraphilia.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not. It's really biology. Some people are not that sexual.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are some people who do it once a week.
Yeah.
There are some people who do it
Oh,
twice
wait,
a day.
wait, so hold on,
And
okay.
that's perfectly fine.
Speaking of the frequency of how often do you do it is that I mean it's necessary to do it or the need, but as for you it's you don't need it.
Mhm.
That's what you said. But to you need it, right?
A bit, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So how frequent?
Depends on the season. I noticed that when it's colder, I tend to do it more often.
Really?
And then when it starts getting to warmer months, I don't do it as often.
Wow.
Yeah,
How
like
about you?
lately, because I've been really busy, it's like once a
It's
week
like whatever,
or
yeah.
twice a week.
Well,
Oh, wow,
sexual
really?
arousal does raise your body temperature by a centigrade. or
Ah,
That's
something.
probably it, you know.
Alright.
It's a temperature thing.
How about
And you, Vince?
I don't know. Sometimes I use count.
in a day?
Sometimes
In a day?
I love that.
Keep your
I
hands
like
on
that.
the table. Okay.
Also, it
How
goes
nice to be young again.
also it goes with age.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It goes with age.
Yeah.
So when you're older,
You get a little bit
It's
lesser.
when the video goes down. Because
Lesser
when I
video.
was a teenager, it was a lot.
Yeah, correct.
You know,
correct.
it
Yeah, it's true.
happens a
true.
lot.
Teenager
Well,
is
it
really.
depends. Like, cause women's peak are older.
Oh,
Yes.
Right.
And then
Yes,
boys
yes.
So when you
are
get to your
younger,
30s
right?
and 40s,
40,
that's
Yeah.
It slows
Yeah.
down. It slows
Yeah.
down.
No, for men, but for women, it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you're in opposite poles. Eh? Yeah.
Yes.
not really opposite. It's just that the rhythms.
The rhythms,
vary.
yeah.
So question, so does that mean it's more expected that women start masturbating at an earlier age? Is that,
No, I
is
mean,
that,
I
is
mean,
No, it's
I don't
it's
think
something
for-
biological.
You know what?
Later
I
age.
think in this country they expect women not to masturbate.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Okay, I was just
I don't
wondering,
know.
I mean, because if the, okay.
Yeah.
No, it's like a very classic reaction because you start exploring your genitals at a very early age. You know, with toddlers, it's the oral, genital, anal fixations, right?
Mhm.
So your genital fixation would normally be between the ages of 2 and 4. And I remember one time my cousin was watching a Miss Universe contest. And this is a story that was handed down because he's an older cousin. And he was 2 years old and he was watching the swimsuit competition and he called his mom, he goes, Mommy, my PTT is getting hard. And his mother was just, oh my God, honey, talk to your son. You know, freaked my aunt out.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that sort of mentality. So my cousin grew up thinking, oh my God, everything
Sinful.
below the waist and above the thighs is filthy.
Right.
That's a
Right,
problem. That's a
that needs
problem.
to be changed.
This is a taboo.
And
Something taboo.
Another time when I was changing the diapers on another relative, who shall remain nameless, and it was a little girl, and I had left the room, and the yaya comes in with a fresh diaper, thinking I was still there, and she sees that little girl touching herself, and she starts to freak out. And ay, bastos!
Huh?
Yeah, because they think that touching the genitals for anything other than to clean it after you pee or you poop is wrong, is filthy. And at that early age, you're so impressionable. Yes, your impressions will be set. Especially if you're seeing an adult panic and why is this adult panicking? Because I'm touching myself.
Yeah.
You know, so that ties into the guilt. I think you start there. Do people start masturbating early? Probably because you're exploring your body and seeing how things feel. You touch your skin and you see how that feels. I don't see how the vagina or the penis is different.
Yeah.
And honestly, the biggest sex organ is your brain. You don't reach orgasm without your brain saying, yeah, do it, climax.
That is so true.
It's a
Yes.
chemical. It's a chemical.
Right.
Chemical.
Yes. Speaking of that, when you say the brain is the biggest thing. All right. Anyway, so when you don't masturbate or when you don't do it at all, do you feel like you're more focused, or you feel like you are the master of your own self when you don't do it or when you do it?
Sometimes I do it in order to be able to concentrate.
All right. That's good.
You get it out of the way.
Yeah, I just do
That's
it just so that
That's good. Yeah.
just so I could write or work.
I feel I sound very, I don't know what the term is, but I felt like me not doing it was a way of me feeling like I was in control, that I cared.
It is a matter of control.
Yeah,
So
and
this
I don't know if it was a
thing,
good or bad thing, but it was me feeling like I don't need to succumb.
Don't worry, monks and Jedi do that.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Maybe
pretty
I
sure
was the man,
Yoda
not
did
you.
that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's also, if you put it another point of view, it's a way also of self-discipline.
Yeah.
You don't always satisfy yourself, but at least you try to suppress it because you want to have a higher discipline. No?
Yeah, you have to know that when you say no, it gets followed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Sometimes it's like a decision that you make, whether it's rational or not. It's sometimes, yeah. When you say no, it should mean no, not necessarily with the opposite.
And it's also
sex, but
practice in
within yourself.
telling another person, when I say no, I mean no.
Exactly.
It's not no
Exactly.
means yes, it's not no pursue me,
Exactly.
it's no.
Like we can't apply that just to the opposite
Yes,
sex. It has
you
to be
apply it
applied
to
to
yourself.
ourselves. Like,
Yes,
I get your point.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for the guys, if you stop doing this, if you stop masturbating, what would be the consequence?
Consequence?
Consequence. What consequence are you talking about?
Let's say, okay, what is the longest time that you don't do it?
Well,
Yeah.
for me, it was a very different situation. It's just when the longest time that I did not do it was, for example, the first time was when I was very, very sexually active. So there was no need to.
Okay.
This was from
Alright.
2005 to 2006.
Okay.
2004 to 2006. I was very sexually active. So I didn't need to masturbate. But then eventually I stopped to slow down because I thought, I'm going to grow up, let's clean up, your life or whatever. So it became a sort of necessity to help out on that thing. Then I found out I was HIV positive in 2008, and that whole stigma and that whole kind of thinking kind of crashed, and I had no libido for 2 years.
Whoa.
I didn't touch myself at all for 2 years. And then afterwards, I started to accept my situation, I started to accept who I was and what has happened to me. Then the libido came back, and I'm like, okay, wait, this is complications now, I mean, even because you could still have a good, healthy sexual life with another person who is negative, even if you're HIV positive. But I prefer to be I prefer to be more and more careful about these situations. So masturbation has been very helpful.
All right.
In that situation. I mean, it doesn't mean that I've stopped having sex since HIV, but because of that whole negotiation between, by the way, I'm HIV positive, you have to know there's gonna be, we're gonna have to do a
Yes.
checklist before we get it on. It kinda, it makes things quite difficult. So
Yeah.
masturbation has been very helpful for me in terms of curbing,
The drive.
Do
the
you
drive.
think there'll be less promiscuity if there was
If there was no guilt about it,
more-
yeah.
I don't think it's about the masturbation itself, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people masturbate,
Yeah.
but take the guilt out of the equation and have a little more openness about sexual
Sex.
matters, sexual health, which includes masturbation.
Why are they
Then
guilty in the
it'll be-
first place? Because
But
they're
it's-
actually scared that someone's looking at them
Well,
while they're doing
yeah.
it.
Tell you frankly,
right?
no?
God's not pleased.
The people who are guilty about this,
Oh,
or the
please.
people who put guilt on it, are people who deprive themselves of this.
No, it's actually people who
There's that one because
who
I know a
cannot
lot of these-
accept their pleasure or their happiness. You know, there are some people who just
There are some
don't want to
people-
be happy.
Yeah, because of course they always think, oh God is looking.
No, I
Or-
have to suffer
No.
because life is pain.
Yeah.
Things like
Because
that.
parang I have more blessing if I have suffering. No? And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
depriving
yes,
oneself
yes,
is
yes.
a one form of suffering that they think they are more.
But there are people
blessing.
who are suffering and so they have sex.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, self-love, masturbation, fapping, tickling yourself pink, I think that this is a good thing. And I think that it is a person's choice whether or not they will do that. Now, of course, there are indecency laws that do not permit you to do that in public, so please don't. And please wash your hands before and after.
All right, Mr. Kim.
I'm Kim, so I think this is good, but as always, you have the freedom to do it, but you have also to be responsible and to be discreet about these things.
I love that reaction.
Wow.
Wow, that reaction.
I think to each his own. To each his own.
All right, good. Okay. Well, if you need to, why not?
Well, no, for me, it's a biological thing. It has nothing to do. I mean, sex has nothing to do with morality.
Yeah.
That's the whole way that I'm thinking about this situation. Sex has nothing to do with morality. It's about how you feel and how you make another person feel. So there's nothing wrong with sex. There should be no guilt involved in it.
And most definitely with masturbation.
Masturbation, because as long as you are doing it within the realms of that you're gonna be okay and fine, and it doesn't hamper you or hinder you, there should be no problem to it.
That's great.
Well, I haven't said a lot.
Yeah, I was wondering
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, we were so excited about that.
I was thinking about trying to think about masturbation in psychoanalytic terms, in terms of how death and pleasure are connected, or how the human drive to pleasure oneself in relation to another being, another person, or another creature is really tied with how we live in this world. Perhaps masturbation is a way of coping, really, into the kind of lack that we have in our lives. It begins with a kind of a shadow, an adumbrative lack in our concerns with life, wherein we masturbate because something isn't there, or we masturbate because we fantasize about an object of our fantasy, or an object of our desire, but then it's not really fulfilled. This is what prompts the psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan to say that there really isn't there is no sexual relationship. It's just as you said, mechanistic. It's biological, and it could not be reducible, or it could not be judged in terms of whose morals are right, because these are relative to culture and civilization.
Wow, and that's principles of principle. All right, hope to see you next time. Bye.
Bye.